Before we call the meeting to order, I would just ask that everyone in attendance please turn their cell phones off, and that includes staff and myself and the other members of the court. So that way we're not distracted. We have not a terribly long agenda today, but it will take some time as usual, and we have some very important topics on the agenda today. I'm going to ask Mr. Eugene Blackburn, who is on the National Day of Prayer Committee, to come forward and say the invocation. And before Eugene comes to the podium, we've lost several distinguished citizens here in Pike County in the last few weeks. Mr. Bruce Francisco, who is the owner of Busy Bee Septic Service, passed away. He's a longtime friend and a friend of my mother-in-law and my wife's family. We also lost Dr. Mary Pauline Fox, who was a pioneer in terms of women in medicine. She was a longtime public health director here. She probably, very few people in the history of this county has done as much to serve our city and county as Dr. Fox. And then Mr. Doug Hinkle, who was the owner of Walter P. Walters Insurance, who was my Sunday school teacher, was a great man, native of Martin County, but was a Pikeville College alumni, played basketball there. And Doug passed away last week. And Eugene, I would just ask that you remember them and lift their families up in prayer.
Before I pray, I do want to thank you for the privilege of coming before you today to represent the National Day of Prayer. I'd like to mention the prayer, if it's okay. The date is May the 2nd. It's in the park. We're going to have two events this year. We're going to have one at 12 o'clock, and we're going to have one at 6:30. And at 5:30, we're going to be serving hot dogs for maybe people that don't want to go home and eat and come back. So we'd love to have each one of you that can to come out to those two events. And I know you're very busy, and I do thank you for the time that you have allowed me here today. And let's do pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come into your presence this morning, first of all, just praising you because you are the Lord of Lords, your Father. We come to you, Lord, thanking you for all your blessings you give us each and every day. Lord, I thank you for the privilege of coming before this court today to pray for them and lift them up to you in every way. But before I do that, dear fathers, Mr. Jones has asked, Lord, these ones that have lost loved ones. I knew Mr. Hickle. I played golf with him, dear Father. He was a good friend. And I'd ask, Lord, that you bless those families, dear Father, the ones that are left to mourn, the ones that are going to have a void in their family, dear Father. I'd ask that you strengthen them, that you encourage them, that you give them peace, Lord, as they go on with their life, dear Father. And, Lord, just bless them in every way. Now, Lord, I do lift up our county to you, our judge here, our commissioners, everyone that's on this court, dear Father. But not only here, dear Father, the judges in our system, dear Father. And, Lord, our firefighters, dear Father, our police officers, dear Lord. I lift up everyone in this county, Lord, that takes the time to serve you, to serve the county. And serving the county, Lord, they serve you. But, Lord, it takes courage, Lord, to serve people, dear Father. And I'd ask that you bless the road workers, everyone that's out there today with a good day today, dear Father. Keep them safe, dear Father. Watch over them, protect them. And, Lord, as the judge and the people make decisions about the county, I've heard the judge say he raises his children here, dear Father, and he wants it's the same for other families as he wants for his family. And I like that, dear Father, because we are all one family here in Pike County. We need to treat each other that way. We need to love one another. We need to care for one another. And, Lord, I do admire these people that give their life in service, dear Father, because they work, dear Father, for the people. And sometimes people can be rude. Sometimes they give their time, but sometimes people don't respect what they do. And Lord, and I would ask that as they work for the people, that they respect the people, and the people in turn respect them, dear Father. as they make decisions about people's lives here, dear Lord. I'd ask that they would ask you, dear Father, what to do before they make decisions, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that they themselves work together, help each other, lean upon each other, dear Father, as they make decisions about a county. And Lord, again, I ask, they take away from their family, dear Father, to give time to the county. And I know that's got to be hard on them, dear Father, and I do respect them, and I do thank them for everything that they do. And I'd ask, Lord, for their families, dear Father, that you would bless them, that you would help them. And Lord, again, give them the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding to do the job that they are called to do. And Lord, I do believe you have to be called to do the job that they do, because Lord, it takes time. It's a hard job, dear Father. And I'd ask that you bless them each and every day, watch over and protect them. And Lord, as a county, as a whole, let us work together, let us love one another, let us help each other, and not tear each other down, dear Father, but lift each other up. Tell someone, if they're one of these workers, dear Father, tell them that they're doing a good job. Thank them for what they do. Don't criticize them for what they do. Thank them for what they do. And Lord, just again, let us love one another. But most of all, dear Father, we thank you that you love us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Eugene, thank you very much. And the members of this court did something that I don't know that's ever been done in the history of the fiscal court, but we begin with prayer and we close with prayer. And we certainly appreciate your kind words and your support. Next item on the agenda is a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Judge Jones?
Present.
Commissioner Robertson?
Here.
Commissioner Tackett?
Here.
Commissioner Booth?
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. And I would like to ask Elkhorn City Mayor Mike Taylor to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor, would you come up, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Next matter on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 19, 2019 and February 28, 2019 meetings of the Pike County Fiscal Court. Is there a motion to approve? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Before we jump into the first item on the agenda, we have a very special guest here with us today. And I would like to ask 94th District State Representative Angie Hatton to come up. And Angie, have a seat. And probably that second microphone right there works. I'm not sure that one does. And Angie had texted me this morning and indicated that she was coming over for an event. And I said, well, since you're coming over, why don't you come over and have an opportunity to address the fiscal court and your constituents here in Pike County. And as an 18-year veteran of the Kentucky General Assembly, you've done a remarkable job. And I certainly, as a father of 3 kids, appreciate your support for public education. Some people don't value public education. I know you do, because I saw, and there's other congratulations are due because your son was selected to the Governor's Scholars Program. So congratulations.
Thanks, Ray. I don't imagine the governor was picking those, or he might not have picked my kid, since we haven't been the best of buddies. But thank you so much for having me this morning, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you guys. I'm here to answer questions if you have any. Didn't prepare a big lot to say. The legislature has adjourned. We've for the year, but we're told we're going to be called back into a special session sometime before July 1st. So, as always, I want people to be able to feel comfortable calling me, emailing me, stopping by to see me, to make sure that I know what's on your mind and what we need. It would hurt my feelings if you guys didn't ask, because it is my job. Went door to door and begged for this job, so I never complain when I get contacted, even if it's after hours, whatever, if I'm needed. So we've been working a whole lot since the session was gone on some road issues, some damage from the winter and the heavy rains this spring, and working with the transportation cabinet to see what funding we can find to get that fixed real quick. So I get a lot of calls about that stuff these days. As we go back into session, we're going to be talking a whole lot about ways to find relief for health departments and the quasi-governmental agencies that need some sort of relief from their contribution rates. And we'll also be looking at whether or not public universities will be permitted to leave from the Kentucky retirement system. And as your county judge full well knows, you're lucky to have had someone with experience in the legislature running the county, because he certainly knows exactly how the processes work with coal severance tax. I've been here for 3 sessions so far. They've changed it 3 times, what procedure we're going to follow. Sometimes you give me a list. Sometimes it's less formal than that. Whatever way it works, I'm right here for Pike County in whatever way you, as a county government, deem most important for your county. And I'll work with you to make sure that your priorities are my priorities as I go into the legislature. So keep in mind what the priorities are going to be. And when I go to the budget process, I'll be representing those views for the city of Pikeville as well as Letcher County, all the cities in Letcher County, Elkhorn City, Colburn Village, and of course Pike County. So I was elected, and I was aware on the day that I was elected and every day since that I'm very fortunate to be chosen as the voice for 42,000 people. Every single one of them is my constituent. I want to find the best way to help them, and I know that this court does as well. So that's where we'll be when session starts back. As a sophomore legislator, I've had the privilege of being named to the Appropriations and Revenue Committee this year, so that's going to be an important way that I'll have an extra voice in our budget as we start to do the 2-year budget next year. So any questions at all that you guys have, I'm available.
One of the things that, there's a couple things, and I'm not sure how long you have to stay, but we've heard some disturbing rumors that there's some movement to try to, the money that would connect, 4-laning the Mountain Parkway from Sayersville to Prestonsburg, trying to shift that money to construct 460 over to Paintsville instead. And that's something that that Judge Hickman had heard. The one thing I think we have to do and it's so important for Pike County to make sure that the Mountain Parkway is completed, even though, it stops in Floyd County, or it will stop in Floyd County when it's completed. That really is important, and I think there's probably a substantial amount more traffic coming from Pike County and Floyd County down 114 that will be coming over from Johnson County. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but if there's any effort to try to change that alignment, we need you to speak up.
I did hear those rumors, Ray, during the session. Ashley Tackett-Lafferty, who is the representative from Floyd and part of Pike, was all over that issue. So she's keeping me informed, and neither of us will support that.
And the other issue is I had contacted, we're going to have a presentation by the Army Corps of Engineers, Mr. Jimmy Kaiser, our floodplain coordinator, and we have Commissioner Bob Shirtley from the city of Pikeville. I'd already mentioned that Mayor Mike Taylor's here. We have Mayor Andrew Scott from Coal Run that's chomping at the bit to move forward with this project that we're going to be talking about. We have Philip Ellswick, the city manager for Pikeville. And I had reached out to, this project deals with flood proofing, and it will have potentially a substantial impact. And we're going to need help because there is a there is a local component. And if you have time to stay around for that presentation, I think it will be very important, because the program we're going to talk about has the potential literally to bring $1 billion in construction work to Pike County over the next 20 years. And it's a substantial undertaking. The Corps is ready to proceed, but we're going to need state funding to help with the local match. So if you have time, before we go into the 202 project, I am going to bring the Ag Extension Office up, let them present their budget so we can acknowledge it, because I'm sure that the next presentation is probably going to be a little bit longer. So if you can stay around for that, we would be grateful.
I'll stay and I'll support it. We've never seen more need for flood than we did this spring, when the waters were everywhere and the rain was relentless. So, yeah, absolutely. I'll stick around and I'll support in all ways I can.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thanks
Ronnie,
again for having me.
Would any commissioners like to say a few words?
I just want to thank Angie for what she does for the city of Pikeville and Pike County, and I'm sure we're going to be asking you to help us do a lot.
Yep, we're all in it together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to jump around on the agenda just briefly and ask the folks from the Pike County Cooperative Extension Service to come up and present their budget for fiscal year 2019-2020, and that would be Leslie Workman, Novella Froman, Suzanne Stumbo, and Stephanie Richards. You please have a seat up here at the table and tell us a little bit about what the Extension Office does, and walk us through your budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, please.
You're fine. You're fine. Good morning. Okay. We'll let you advance those slides for us. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to give you a program update from the Extension Office. With the new administration, we're just really grateful to let you know about all the wonderful things that we do in our office. Being a taxing district, we are completely funded by you, so this is your opportunity to learn all the wonderful things that happen at the Extension Office. Next slide, please. So we want to give you just a little historical background on the Extension Service. Really the purpose is for the evidence-based research from the university and the College of Agriculture to come directly to the people here in Kentucky. So there's an office in all 120 counties in the state, and Extension looks different in every place that you go. So it looks different in Texas than it does here in Kentucky. It looks different in New York, and that's because it's a grassroots organization. The leaders in the local community make it be what it needs to be here. So the leaders here in Pike County tell us what they need from us here. So that's why it doesn't look the same every place that you go. Go back one more slide, please, sorry. Thank you. Extension began in the early 1900s, and our taxing district started here in the 1960s. It was either 67 or 68, so it's about a 50-year history that we have with the Extension district tax here. There is a memorandum of agreement that we have between the University of Kentucky and the Pike County Extension District, and that sets up exactly how the cost sharing will be and what's expected between the Extension District and how all the funds are laid out every year. There's also, I think, been a misconception that we have additional funding from other sources. Our only funding source is our county tax dollars. So every year in our memorandum of agreement, we send our personnel payments for salary and benefits. That's in our memorandum of agreement that goes to the university. Next slide, please. So we have 4 major program areas. We have agriculture and natural resources, 4-H and youth development, fine arts, which is the first in the nation, and you'll hear more about that, and family and consumer sciences. We currently, in Pike County, have 16 staff members. There are 4 professional staff. These are the extension agents, 2 staff assistants, which is our secretaries, 7 program assistants, a facilities coordinator, and 2 federally funded nutrition education assistants. Those are USDA nutrition program assistants who teach people who are on SNAP benefits how to better use their SNAP resources. And they really only don't cost us any money. They just occupy office space and things like that. In 2017 and 2018, Pike County Extension Office had over 175,000 contacts last year. That's quite a lot. Novella, your turn.
Well, good morning. My name's Novella Froman, and I have the fun job of being a county extension agent for 4-H and youth development. We have 4,025 kids in 4-H in our county. You know, it's really big, and in order to accomplish that, we see the youth 6 times within a year. I have 3 assistants that help me with the educational programming. So if you were to say, what is 4-H? It's a community of young people across the nation learning leadership, life skills, and citizenship. And probably the basic structure, the citizenship, is that in their 4-H clubs, they learn how to the election process. They have to run for office. They give a speech. And then they conduct the meetings of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order, loosely interpreted because they are kids and they're learning. So many of them come back to me and tell me, you know, when we had to do our 4-H meetings, when we were in other organizations and clubs, that skill came in handy. We also teach practical living skills through 4-H projects. Our district board invests in the 4-H program. A lot of counties provide, do not pay for the booklets, but our board does. And we have a nice budget so that each child gets at least 1 project. It might be woodworking, it might be photography, and I did bring a sample of one of the projects. Is it upside down? Yeah, there we go. So this is a photography project presented by a student from Shelby Valley High School. And they learn a lot about how to compose a photograph, and they display it at the 4-H fairs. We have 5 4-H fairs throughout the county at the local high school. That's so some kids never get to go to their high school, and we are just amazed at the cooperation that we get with our school systems in letting us or have one day in which the kids bring their projects. We also have another program that teaches children to save. These 2 banks from Pikeville High School were chosen to represent our district, and there were 20 counties in our district, and they were exhibited at the Capitol building. And we're trying to teach children how to save, number 1. Number 2, to prevent credit card debt. So that's one of the skills that we're teaching them. So we also have 4-H camp. I think that's one of the things that we're most known for. We have leadership conferences for our teenagers, and they come back and give back, and they'll be a leader at 4-H camp. They serve as leaders during the 4-H fairs that we have. So we feel like we're teaching a lot of good skills to children through these leadership conferences. One of the other things that we do, you know, our youth are our future. And I just had an American Private Enterprise Seminar, and Judge, I think that you have participated in that as a high school students. This teaches the basic ways to organize doing business. And I had the president of the Rotary Club, Rick Newsom, come up to me after that. He presented, he helped talk about business, and he said, you know what, that workshop gave me a hope for the future because I saw some outstanding youth in there. So at that point, I'd like to know if there's any questions for me.
We've had the opportunity to work together over my tenure in the General Assembly, and I appreciate everything that you've done. You've done a lot to help children in this county. And the Extension Office is important. So,
I agree.
Dan, would you like to say a few words?
Next slide,
I'm sorry.
or two,
I'm jumping
probably.
around
Yeah,
here.
we got a couple more. Yep.
That's me.
Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Richards. I'm the Pike County Extension Agent for Fine Arts. We're the first county in the entire nation to have a county extension program in the fine arts, and that started in 2005. We are one of only 3 counties in the state of Kentucky now that has fine arts extension. It's started off as a way of community and economic development through the arts. So what can we do in rural communities that don't, for kids and adults that don't have access to the arts easily? So when you live in a city, you can walk to an arts institute, or you can walk to see a theater, and you can see public art. But in rural communities, we don't have that. So how can we address some of our social problems through the arts? And we've been working on that. When I started in 2005, one of the ideas was to put venues into each of the county areas, and we're still working on that, and that's working out very well, so that the people out in the county have somewhere locally to go to experience their arts, and they don't necessarily have to overcome the drive into Pikeville to get to, or cost efficiency for people that can't afford it. So we've got programming in Elkhorn City with Artist Collaborative Theater. We started the Hatfield-McCoy Arts Council up in McCarr, and that's now the official play for the state of, for the Commonwealth, for the feud, for the Hatfield-McCoy feud. It's the most accurate storyline of the feud in the nation, and that's going into its 7th year in McCarr, Kentucky. And they're also starting to travel that show and doing a great job. We have downtown Pikeville has declared its own arts district after we started the Artisan Center in 2006. So the city of Pikeville is doing great things downtown. And we're now ready to look at Stone Heritage up in the northern part of the county, and also in the Shelby Valley area doing some public art installments. So that's what's coming up next. But we're very excited about the Stone Heritage. Also, Artist Collaborative Theater has overtaken the job of restarting the old WECL Theater in Elkhorn City. But that's what they're doing as a board of directors. But I'm looking forward to getting started on our Stone project. And I know the people of Stone and northern Pike County are ready for that. We put in over 100,000 volunteer hours, are logged into fine arts programming annually. That equals over $1 million in donated time to Pike County, around the county. Pike County Fine Arts is directly responsible for over $350,000 of real dollar economic impact into our county annually. So each of those arts programs are not taking money from the county, they're putting money back into the county. So we're leveraging what we have and making it even better. Artist Collaborative Theater, this is the thing I'm probably most proud of, in addition to the economic impact of our arts, because I do believe that arts is a business. It's not just a feel-good thing. Artist Collaborative Theater has a 100% success rate of graduating high school seniors that go through our program. Every senior that goes through our program graduates high school with an average of 3.8 GPA. Artist Collaborative Theater then has a 100% success rate of placing those seniors into post-secondary education, whether that be college or job training. And then we have a 100% success rate of those secondary programs, of the graduation of those kids going through their programs. So once they go through Artist Collaborative Theater, they have the soft skill set, and they get placed in a training program or post-secondary education program of their choice. And then we have a 100% success rate of graduation from those programs.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Leslie?
I think Suzanne is probably next.
Okay, I'm Suzanne Stumbo, and I'm the Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent for Pike County. And I just made a list. So far, with our farmers market and our farmers, we have over $800,000 in grant money coming into Pike County. We've gone from the farmers market making about $2,000 a year up to over 200,000 for our vendors and everything. We've started the WIC, the senior vouchers, the double dollars, which it results in about a little over $10,000 for our people on WIC and senior services. This is through buying fresh produce local. We have one of the biggest beekeepers associations in the state, and I'm really proud of them. And if we have time left, I'm going to ask Neil to come up and talk about it a little. But we are starting a new queen breeders program, and we're doing training statewide. And it sounds kind of crazy, but when you think of bees and all those little bees flying around, if you get into queen breeding, those suckers will bring from $30 to about $800 a piece. So I see this as potential for us. We've got the master gardeners. They worked with the Belfry Library. They worked with the trail over here, and various things. We just did the seed swap back on April 8th. We had 58 vendors. We had over 600 people in. We had people from 11 states that were coming into our area and spending money. And we have one of the largest seed swaps in the nation, believe it or not, here in Pike County. We have several from Canada. In the past, we've had them all the way from California to come and look at our heirloom seeds. I was checking some records and had over 28,000 contacts in just 10 months. That's either through training or people call in with problems or need some information. Could be livestock, could be home gardener, could be something commercial, even your old golf course. So
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
sometimes I feel like a ping pong ball, but we cover anything with agriculture and all that.
You would fit in well with this crowd. So.
I'm gathering that. But if anybody got any questions?
You did, just briefly, you did tell me earlier that there are sufficient chemicals at the golf course that would you address that, please?
Greg Munshaw, which is one of the best in the nation, he's a specialist at UK. He went and looked at it. He thought you all had adequate amounts of the crabgrass control to do it this spring. So all you're going to be out of labor. So that's going to save you a lot. And then he recommended for the summer work on the lime and the fertilizers, and then this fall go in and completely redo the greens and everything. He says with golf, and the reason I ask him is I can grow grass, but I don't know about a golf course. So there's differences. He says the primary concern right now is controlling the crabgrass. And then the secondly is controlling the fertilizer and the lime. And then this fall, come back and fix some drainage problems, fix some earthburn problems, and completely reseed. By next spring, they should be in fantastic shape, and then work on the fairways and the roughs a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Mr. Ratliff up in a little bit, and we're going to talk about some timelines and cost and so forth. But we appreciate the Extension Office doing the soil samples and having a representative go over and look at it, because we're not in the financial position to put any money in the course right now. But if we could take some relatively inexpensive steps to try to, get it in a position to reopen next year.
Greg is working on programs, and that was his basics. He's still working on other suggestions. His thing is, the only way you're going to get it 100% or looking great this year is sodding, and that's beyond cost. Yeah. I would also recommend that you send people down to our turf workshop in Lexington. I believe the date is July 11th. They'll see different varieties. They'll see actual golf course conditions and recommended chemicals, the latest research on the varieties and things like that.
And that sounds like something we probably would send Mr. Ratliff aware of that, and I think we're going to probably discuss sending him down there for that, because the county's on the hook for the rent on at least part of it for 70 years. And, no matter what happens under the lease, we can't get out from under it. Yeah. And it can only be used for a golf course. And where it floods, I'm not sure what other uses we could make out of it. We've talked to the Corps about doing some things, looking into whether we can do some additional flood proofing. I think ultimately that's what has to happen. If we can't flood proof it, it's just throwing good money after bad, I'm afraid.
Well, we're here to help. We also have specialists at UK.
And we greatly appreciate that.
We'll try.
So we have been presented your budget. I know that the members, and just for the sake of trying to save some time, I know we appreciate what you all do. If we can be of any help, all you have to do is let us know. I think there were some questions from,
We're glad to try. We try.
so,
Leslie needs to report too.
I'm
I
sorry,
had-
Leslie.
Oh, it's okay, just a few minutes. For the last 23 years, I've been your family and consumer sciences agent. If you had high school home economics, then you know what I do. Everything from nutrition, families, and home is really what I take care of. I've done financial counseling for Habitat for Humanity families. We have a really good partnership with Habitat for Humanity, but they have families who are in need of housing that can't pass their credit screening. So I've worked with those families so that they can just pass the basic credit screening so then they can get into their housing. Because of that, they were able to get an additional $250,000 grant to open up another phase of housing, which I thought was fantastic. I've worked with AARP. We do safe driving courses, about 6 or 7 of those a year. We have another one coming up next week. We've got about 50 people enrolled. I work with the Alzheimer's Association. We have a great educational partnership with them. We do about half a dozen workshops a year where they come in and we talk about caregiving. You know, in Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia, we like to keep our people at home. You know, sometimes we are caregivers too long, and that can become a burden on the family. And we help people understand the best way to be a caregiver and to care for those that we love. Really, the majority of my work is in food nutrition. I do all the food preservation classes, as well as food safety and all kinds of food training, as well the farmers market and all of their needs, all their commercial trainings as well. I do all kinds of hands-on cooking and baking classes. I'm a firm believer that families that cook and eat together are healthier. Research shows that. So my sole mission is to get families cooking and eating at home, because I believe that we'll have a much healthier county and community if we do that. I also am in charge of the Pike County Extension Homemakers. We have 5 clubs. They're all throughout the county. We have about 130 members. They do all kinds of service projects. And also, the 2 federally funded nutrition assistants are under my charge. And we are the only entity in the county that provides education for SNAP recipients, okay? So anybody that goes to the food stamp office and is a food stamp recipient, we're the only entity in the county that provides the educational piece for them. So we are in every school, we are in every senior citizen center, we work at every community center to provide education for people who are on public assistance. Okay?
Well, again, thank you all for coming. We're here to work with you, and Suzanne, we really do appreciate you trying to help us save some money. So that's near and
You're
dear.
safe this spring, wait till the fall.
Well,
Can't promise anything then.
I mean, saving money is near and dear to our heart right now with the situation that we're facing. But anyway, we have been presented with your 2019, 2020 budget. Are there any questions by the members of the court regarding the budget? Is there a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the Pike County Cooperative Extension Service Budget Plan for the fiscal year 2019 to 2020? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Would you all have anything else you need to add, Leslie?
I think that's all. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Matter before the body is acknowledgement of the Pike County Cooperative Extension Service Budget Plan for fiscal year 1920. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Thank you all very much and look forward to working with you. The next matter is the presentation regarding the Corps of Engineers Leviza Fort 202 floodproofing project. And we have Ms. Rebecca Bennett, who's the project manager from the Huntington Division of the Army Corps of Engineers. She is accompanied by Mr. Kevin Nelson, who's also project manager. We have Mr. Jimmy Kaiser, who's the county floodplain coordinator. We have Mayor Andrew Scott. Mayor, would you like to come up? We have Mayor Mike Taylor, if you'd like to move up front. And also Mr. Philip Ellswick and Bob Shirtler from the city of Pikeville. I'm not sure how many seats we have, but we have a couple over on the side over there. You can, if there's not enough room, you can move back to the. This is a project that back in my days in the legislature, Mr. Kaiser had called me to discuss. And I think it's a project that Jimmy has worked on very hard. I know that my conversations with Mayor Scott, that he is excited about the possibility of this project. And it's pretty rare when you have an opportunity to bring a project of this magnitude to an area that is as economically distressed as our community is because of the loss of coal jobs. I'm not sure, Mr. Kaiser, Ms. Bennett, who would like to go first?
I'm just here for a supporting role, so we'll let Mr. Kaiser.
I'm sure you're not going to get out that easy. I mean, there may be some, it won't be a deposition, but there will be some questions. Mr. Kaiser, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
All right. This is, I tried to inform the court a little bit of what this project is about. Here you'll see a simulation of what it looked like if we had another 77 flooding around Coal Run.
Jimmy, you might need to pull that closer to you. I'm not sure it's working real
Can you hear it now?
better now. You may need to pull it closer, maybe even than that. So,
okay. I'll start out giving the court a little brief history on these flood projects. Started in the mid-'80s through the '90s and early 2000, the Army Corps of Engineers in Pike County done a flood project called the 202 Flood Reduction Project on the Tug Fork in Pike County. This came out of the 1981 Energy and Water Development Appropriations Act, Section 202. Flood wall was constructed around the ARH Hospital and one around South Williamson, along with several hundred homes being flood-proofed either by raising in place or acquisition. The main stem has been completed and the tributaries to the Tug Fork were started, but were stopped due to the lack of funding in 2006. The tributaries were started back around the latter part of 2017. Two of the first structures to be flood-proof were the Phelps Library and the Phelps Fire Station. The library chose to drop out of the project and construction on the fire station has begun. During this time, a study was done for the 202 project on the Leviathan Fork Basin in Pike County. Construction was scheduled to begin in 2006. Due to funding, it was also put on hold. In the latter part of 2017, I asked the Army Corps of Engineers if the Leviathan Fork project could be put back on the table. The county has had meetings along with several phone conversations and met with the Corps just last week. It is my understanding that if the state of Kentucky and Pike County can fund their portion, the Leviathan Fork project will move forward. Now, here's what a lot of this will consist of now. The Pike County Leviathan Fork project consists of two selected structural floodproofing alternatives along with an array of non-structural floodproofing alternatives as well. The project proposes a flood wall around Coal Run Village and North Pikeville. Located in the Coal Run Village are approximately 135 residential structures, 115 commercial structures, and several public facilities, including the Kentucky State Police Office Building and the Coal Run Town Hall. And I also think that they've been a fire station, I think, constructed since, and a lot more structures, I'm sure, since the draft plan was completed. There were four alternatives considered. A completely non-structural project being a combination of protection by raising in place, acquisition, and relocation. Three different structural, non-structural alternatives that would involve flood walls, levees, of different lengths and pump stations partially protecting Coal Run while offering a non-structural solution to the remaining structures. Now, for everyone's understanding, the area that we're discussing is from the railroad bridge and stuff there at Stone Coal, all the way down to approximately around Rural King is the area that is considered in this portion of it right here. Alternative 1. That's a completely non-structural project. All eligible structures were protected against a recurrence of the 1977 flood event by elevating the structures in place or acquisition. Keep in mind that this is protecting people not from a 100-year event, which what all the law was written to, but this project will protect people to a 400-year event, which the 1977 flood event was at Coal Run. Alternate 2. This is a combined structural, non-structural, and is the shortest alignment, and it's termed alignment A. It consists of a T-base concrete wall averaging 18 feet tall, approximately 1,600 feet in length, a rock fill levee 25 feet tall and approximately 2,600 feet in length, a 70,000 gallon per minute pump station with a 54-inch interceptor, one dual 9-foot by 44-foot trolley gate closure across US 23, a single 16-foot by 34-foot gate closure across the access road. Now, this would require the acquisition of approximately 15 structures with the public facilities staying in place. This alternative will protect 103 structures. However, it would leave the residential area known as Scott's Addition unprotected. Now, these structures would qualify for a voluntary non-structural floodproofing. They won't actually be left out. They just won't be behind the wall. Alternative 3 was another combined structural, non-structural, termed alignment B. Similar to alignment A on the downstream end, alignment B would extend upstream around Scott's Addition. An alternative 4, this alternative for Coal Run was another structural, non-structural project termed alignment C. This is the longest alignment and would move down on the downstream end, taking in the area of Rural King and extending up to the railroad bridge at Stone Coal. Also taking in Scott's Addition. Now, it would consist of a T-base concrete wall averaging 25 feet tall and approximately 4,500 feet in length, and a rock fill levee averaging 25 feet tall, approximately 4,000 feet in length. A single 70,000 gallon per minute pump station with a 48-inch interceptor, a 16-foot by 34-foot swing gate closure across access road, and one dual 15-foot by 40-foot trolley gate closure, and one 12-foot by 40-foot trolley gate closure across US 23. There'd actually be 2 in this proposal. And sheet piling retaining wall behind Rural King. The alignment A was chosen, the shortest one.
Okay, no, when you say alignment A, you've given alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which one is?
There's alignment A. That's the first one I read. It's the shortest one. That's the picture of it right there.
And who made the decision? Is that the Corps made that decision?
Yeah.
So that would be completely non-structural.
No, alignment A would be a wall around, it would take in Dr. Hazlett's medical building from across the highway there, across 23, take in his building, go upstream to AEP and take in AEP, and then go over and tie into the 4-lane. And then from there up would be raised in place or acquisition, which one, what part they fall into.
They would raise the houses in Scott Addition, is that what it
Yeah,
amounts to?
they'd be
Jamie?
raising the homes in Scott Addition, yes.
Okay.
Rebecca, why was that alignment chosen instead of a wall that would have seemed to have provided greater protection than trying to raise it? Was it a cost factor?
Yes, so whenever we do these studies, we study, and he touched on the difference between a non-structural, which is completely going in and raising the houses to a 1977 or 100-year flood elevation, whichever is the controlling factor, or doing a structural, and we call that non-structural, or a structural measure such as a levee or flood wall. So at the end of the day, whatever alignment or combination of the two has to be the least costly alternative to the government to essentially meet the mission of evacuating the floodplain. So that's where alignment A was the cheapest.
All right. Jimmy, go ahead.
All right, now we'll move on to the North Pikeville side.
Can I interrupt you? Rebecca, what would be the cost of construction of alignment A?
The study was completed, as he mentioned, in 2012, and at that time, it was between $50 and $100 million, I believe. Our cost estimators have inflated that number and expect that it would be closer to $115 million right now. That's one of those things that, you know, the first step in the process is kind of go out and determine what's changed since we completed the study and take in those factors and get a more precise cost estimate.
Judge, may I ask a question of the Corps?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kaiser.
Excuse me.
Mr. Kaiser, you had mentioned that going to take in across the, you said take in around the Medical Plaza back there on Medical Lane, and then come back and take in to where the power company is. You meant that it would not physically take those properties away, but it would actually,
They would
wall
be inside
start
the flood
around
wall,
there.
yes.
That would be inside the flood wall. And then just the second question I have is, if you're going, is alignment A the only choice that we're being given?
As far as the Corps is concerned, alignment A, like I said, was the least costly alternative, but there are options as far as buy up to or betterments we would consider. So if there's an additional Scott's addition, would be, if you were to be interested in protecting it with a levee and flood wall, then the sponsor would be responsible for the difference in the price.
And go ahead.
Go ahead, Mayor, I'm sorry.
And just the last question I have is if there were any buyouts or raising of structures, like for example Scott Addition, which is my understanding that this alignment A would include, would that be voluntary or would that be mandatory?
Voluntary.
That's voluntary.
And is this similar to what happens when NFIP comes into an area that's been flooded 2 or 3 times and they pay somebody to raise their house, to come in and they basically lift the houses up?
Yes, yes, same process.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, just so the folks out there who might be listening to this and Representative Hatton, this is what we ask you to stay. I had asked a representative of the Department of Local Government to be here because there is a 95-5 match. The federal government will provide 95% of the funding, but the local governments or the state or local entity has to provide 5%. And I just got a text from Sandy Donahue, who is the local government, Commissioner of Local Government, and she didn't send anybody up today. And she said that they had requested $25 million through the Capital Projects Committee. She said they do not have $6 million today. And we'll talk about the cost to move forward. But there have been, Jimmy, as I understand it, previously the Department of Local Government had committed to providing the 5% local match, that the Department of Local Government would pay 95% of that. course, there's new administration in place now. So I'm not sure, what our options are. Obviously, the county can't afford the 5% match, and I'm not sure where we are with Coal Run, Pikeville, and Elkhorn City. But I do think it's important for Representative Hatton to work on this, because, I mean, this, the potential economic benefit, and we're not even completed the presentation. But it's my understanding that in order for us to sign the collaborative agreement, that the county would have to put up $652,000. Is that correct, Jimmy?
Pardon?
If we authorize the partnership agreement today, the project partnership agreement with the Corps for the Leviza Fork 202 floodproofing project, we would be required to come up with about $652,000. Is that correct? And most likely, it would take a collaborative effort between the county and Coal Run and Pikeville. Let's move, Jimmy, before we go back to the financial cost, go ahead and complete your presentation. I apologize.
Let me explain something too. While some of these numbers are different on these heights of the flood walls, is in the act, if a flood wall or a levee was constructed in an urban area, if it was to be topped, if it would cause catastrophic damage, they have a formula that they go by. So these flood walls that can be constructed will probably protect North Pikeville and Coal Run 6 to 7 feet higher than the 77 flood level. So you'll have that much more protection if this project moves forward. Be about 6 to 7 feet higher than the 77. All right, now for North Pikeville, the project also proposes a flood fall around North Pikeville, or locally known as Bowles Addition. The area we're discussing includes everything from US 23, closer to the cut-through, to approximately the old swinging bridge. There are approximately 40 residential structures and 45 commercial structures, Pikeville High School and the Kentucky Department of Transportation Garage Complex. 3 alternatives were considered. Completely non-structural, that's, no flood walls, just raising in place or acquisition. 2 different structural, non-structural alternatives that would involve flood walls of different lengths and pump stations partially protecting North Pikeville while offering a non-structural solution to the remaining structures. Alternative 1 was the complete non-structural that would protect them to the 77 flood event by elevating in place or acquisition. Alignment 2 is a complete structural project which would take in the entire area of the flood wall, termed alignment B. It would be a T-based concrete wall averaging 19 feet tall and approximately 100 feet in length, no levees, and it'd have a single pump station, 26,000 gallon per minute with a 48-inch interceptor, 1 16-foot by 34-foot gate closure across access road, and 2 5.5-foot by 4-foot gate closures across US 23 with sheet pile retaining wall behind Pikeville High School. Alternative 3 is a combined structural, non-structural project, and is the shortest of the 2 and termed alignment A. It consists of a T-based concrete wall approximately 18 feet tall and approximately 4,500 feet in length, a 26,000 gallon per minute pump station with a 48-inch interceptor, a 16-foot by 34-foot gate closure across the old Mayo Trail, and sheet pile retaining wall behind Pikeville High School. Now, this alignment would require the acquisition of 15 structures and the relocation of the Kentucky Department of Transportation garages. Pikeville High School would remain in place. This would provide protection for approximately 40 residential structures and numerous commercial structures, leaving 16 unprotected. And these structures would qualify for voluntary non-structural floodproofing, which would consist of raising in place. Alignment A was chosen. Now, this brings me back to, Judge, when these walls are constructed, there are some homes that have to be bought. There's no way around it. Now then, but once you get outside this in the non-structural part, everything will be voluntary. But there'll be some that will be required in the construction of the walls. All right, now to the non-structural part. The non-structural floodproofing portion of the project includes the construction of a ring wall around the school, the relocation of 3 schools and 3 fire stations, and the protection of approximately 2,000 residential and commercial structures by either floodproofing methods or acquisitions. One of them is the Millard High School, or Millard Middle School, which is the old high school, and the Pike County Vocational Center has proposed to have a ring wall enclosing both schools. The approximate cost of $11.3 million. Mullins Elementary, it was determined that the structure cannot be protected in place by a ring wall due to space needed due to an existing street. It would be relocated at a cost of approximately $19.4 million.
So what we're talking about when you say Mullins Elementary, this was probably back before they opened the North Point Academy. You're talking about the old Mullins High School building.
Yeah.
Which now Mullins Elementary is up on the hill, so just to be clear about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Now, these is probably 2003 numbers too, on money-wise.
Millard, just to interrupt you, Millard Elementary's also been relocated already, so. All right.
What I'll do, I'll just skip that one, because nobody's bought it back yet either, have they? I mean, it's just sitting. Would you all still floodproof it? Yeah, it wouldn't qualify for the floodproof.
All right, let's go Johns Creek Elementary.
All right, Johns Creek Elementary. It was determined that the structure cannot be protected by a ring wall due to the lack of space between the building and the floodway. 2 alternatives were viable. Alternate 1 was to relocate to a safe site, which would serve the county in the same manner and reasonable well as the existing facility. Alternative 2 was to relocate the eligible classroom space on site with a new building. This would include a 2-story building raised to an elevation of 741 feet at the location of the existing main entrance to the school. This would require some light excavation and road work for a new entrance, the demolition of the band and the music building, and abandonment of the northwestern wing and gymnasium basements at approximate cost of $12.9 million. Marbone Creek Fire Station, it would be relocated. It sits in the floodway. The approximate cost of $3 million. The Pike Fire Station would be relocated. Can't be protected because it would require crossings across Thompson Road.
That's already been relocated, I would suspect, from which Pike Fire Station?
That's the one down below Walmart's.
That's already been relocated. City's already relocated that one.
Yeah, that's right. It moved in here, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Johns Creek Fire Station, it would be relocated due to the building being located in a floodway. Approximate cost of $2.5 million. All right, now, as stated earlier, there will be approximately 2,000 residential and commercial structures to be flood-proof through a combination of raising in place and acquisitions. All like I stated earlier, these costs are based on 2003 numbers that I was reading off here, so, you know, they'll probably be more than what they show here. In 2003, the estimated cost of this project, now this is getting to the funding part of where we can discuss later on here when we get done. This includes the building of flood walls, levees, the acquisitions required to build the flood walls, engineering, planning, design, project administration, the 2,000 structures, and everything was at $650 million. 6 to 8 years later, the Corps brushed up their numbers and the total cost went to $850 million. As of now, the estimated cost is near $1.2 billion. Now note that that's a 100% participation, and which we probably wouldn't get that, but I believe that we'd have somewhere around 50 to 60% participation. So these numbers would come down some as far as the counties and the state's part to be flood-proof. As of today, the Army Corps of Engineers has spent approximately $8.5 million on the study and draft plan. They have $4 million now waiting to begin this project. If the county decides to move forward, and the Corps will start the design of the flood walls as soon as Pike County and the state commits. You want me to go on and explain some of this funding and?
I think it's important, Jimmy, I think it's important that people do understand that this project will qualify for 95.5 funding. Other projects, the newer projects, don't qualify for that. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, now I'll explain this right here.
All right, go ahead.
Something that's very important about the funding of this project, and why I think that the court and the city and the state and everybody can't let this opportunity pass by. If the court were to go after a flood project of this type now, they are funded either 60-40 or 70-30. I'm not sure on it. Which one is it?
65-35, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. I knew it was right there somewhere. So let's just take, let's say the 70-30, for instance. That means that the federal share of the $1.2 billion would be $840 million, with the county share being $360 million. I'll skip that. But if the La Paz support, but this project falls under the funding that Senator Byrd acquired back in the beginning when all this 202 project started. The numbers for this would be 95% federal share, 5% state, which makes the 100, and then Pike County share is 5% of the state's 5%. So for the $1.2 billion project, Pike County share would be $3 million. Now this is at 100%. So if it's 60%, that'd probably come down probably around $2 to $2.5 million.
So Rebecca, let me just ask, and so the people of the county understand, what is the total potential investment in this flood-proofing project, and over what period of time are we looking at?
If you were to sign up today for all 2,000 structures at 100% participation rate, you're looking at well over $1 billion of investment between federal and non-federal.
And so 95 million $950 million would come from the federal government, and that would leave 50 million for the local match. And as Mr. Kaiser said, previously the last administration had committed to funding 95% of the 50 million. Is that correct, Jimmy?
Yeah, they've committed to this since the 80s.
Okay, and we're ready to proceed now. So I guess my question is, and I've been trying to get some information, additional information from the Department of Local Government. Apparently, they don't have the money to proceed right now, and they're trying to get more money. But, I mean, it's not like we would need to come up with $50 million in state money right now.
That's correct, and I want to clarify something, that even on the federal portion, it's all subject to federal appropriations. So we go through the work plan and the yearly budgeting cycle, and so the congressman from this part of Kentucky has been instrumental in funding, this $4 million that we have now. But as far as the state DOG funding the project, our partnership agreement is with the sponsor. In this case, it would be Pike County. Now, any cost share agreement between Pike County and the Department of Local Government is essentially between you all. And I understand with other counties that we have 202 projects in, it's an MOA between the county and the DOG. So just to be clear, as far as our agreement, it would be a legal agreement between us, Pike County, and then you would be responsible to provide us those cost share.
Okay. And of course, with our economic situation, we would have to have an MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, with the Department of Local Government and potentially some of the other interested parties, the City of Pikeville and Coal Run. And those things have to be, the details have to be worked out. One question I have is if we went ahead and we moved forward with the partnership agreement and there was, some type of delay in us being able to come up with our match, what happens to the project then? Would it just be held in abeyance until we get the money?
Yes, and that works on whether the sponsor, doesn't have funds or federal funds aren't available.
And that can happen with,
Right.
Economic downturn at the federal level. But there would be some type of ongoing discussions. Okay, we're ready to proceed, you're not. You're ready to proceed, we're not. Everybody's on the same page and it goes forward.
Yes.
Assuming that we could come up with the $652,000 to enter into the partnership agreement between the county and the Army Corps of Engineers, what does that cover? What does that get the county?
That would allow us to begin our design and real estate activities. So we have two phases of a project, what we consider the preliminary engineering and design portion, and then the construction portion. So we estimate that first portion we'll call PED is approximately $15 to $20 million to finalize the design, acquire the properties, do relocations for utilities and that kind of thing before we would award a construction contract. So this $652,000 would cost share the spent cost of the report, which was $8.5 million, as well as the $4 million we currently have in federal appropriations. So that would get us somewhere through this PED phase. And then obviously for efficient design,
Then we would have to
would
have,
be a stopping point as far as, hey, we need the next allotment of money.
so if we get to the point where we just don't have the money to move forward, it's not like we're gonna get sued by the Corps of Engineers and say, you gotta come up with your part of the money and.
That's correct.
Okay. And, I think the conversation needs to be, and I'm trying to arrange a meeting, or we're going to try to see if we can get you and Mr. Nelson, Colonel Evers together with Ms. Donahue, who's the Commissioner Donahue in the Department of Local Government, and representatives from Coal Run Pikeville. And even though Elkhorn is not directly involved, there will be some construction on the tributaries. What type of economic impact? I mean, one of the things we've seen, and Jimmy and I have had this conversation, flood insurance costs have skyrocketed. I think this project would help lower the flood insurance cost. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's correct. And Jimmy mentioned that, typically for FEMA's flood insurance risk management program, they require homes to be protected to the 100-year flood elevation. This project, since the 77 flood, was actually higher than that elevation. The flood walls protect to a higher level, which means that those homes behind the flood wall, you know, are not even in the 100 year. So definitely reductions as far as that goes.
Yeah, and even outside the flood walls, when they elevate these homes, they're gonna be, it's roughly, you have a base flood elevation. It's where the water will be if you have this 100-year flood event. Every foot that your home is built above that BFE cuts your insurance roughly 25%. 2 foot's the real sweet spot where you get probably the better deal, and 3 foot up to 4 feet. So if you end up with a home, it's going to be 3 to 4 feet above the base flood elevation, which most of these will, because they're going to the 77 flood level. It's going to save them. It'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars saved in flood insurance.
Well,
Probably millions time you go all the way up and down the main stem of the river.
let's just talk, let's go through these. It's going to lower flood insurance costs for the people who are benefiting from this project.
Yes.
It's going to raise property values. It's going to create construction jobs,
Yes.
which generates occupational tax, net profit tax. It's going to be money spent in our community.
They say every dollar spent goes around 7 times.
So, you know, we've got a local concrete company, and there'd be a lot of concrete pumped, it would seem like. It would be, there's a lot of things that this would, very, very few projects would be this long-term and have this much of an impact.
Yes, you've got blocks. Usually they build decks on these homes once they've been raised. You got block layers, carpenters, house movers, Lowe's, all your lumber that's bought, concrete. I mean, electricians, roofers. It's a big impact on this county.
Well, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Bennett, do you have anything else you'd like to add on this project?
No, we're here to serve the people of Pike County, so.
And we appreciate, this is, I think, the third meeting that we've had over this issue. Yourself, Colonel Evers, were kind enough with other staff members coming down last week. And we appreciate what the Corps is doing. On a side note, do you know if anything has been done looking at the golf course issue? That's the major, you know, thorn in the side of the court right now with the potential levy around that property.
I do know that the commander was true to his word as far as when we got back, he pinned that rose on someone else within our building. So you should be getting a call shortly concerning that.
And I just can't speak volumes enough. This is the third, you know, we've met with the Corps and signing a partnership agreement on cleaning up fish trap. Your office came down to discuss this. You're back today. Mayor, would you like to say a few words about this, and what's your position on it, or are you in a position to?
So Judge, I mean, you're looking at a $1.2 million project, or $1.2 billion project that's coming into the county, that under, I believe it's the Byrd Act, only requires 5% of 95%, so is that correct?
That's correct.
So 5% of 95%. So if you pass this up now and it's needed later, then you're looking at an outlay of $227 million by the county, which the county doesn't have, and I don't think the county will ever have 227. Any county has $227 million for these types of things. When you take into account that you're probably looking at what Davis-Bacon wages,
Prevailing wages,
and you're looking at the jobs that would come into this area, you know. I think it's fair to say that in some of the areas that just the 1% net profit and occupational tax would cover 75 to 80% of the initial capital outlay. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of property rights, and I don't want to see anybody involuntarily lose their home, and I don't know how many homes there are in Coal Run, Mr. Kaiser, that would be affected. I don't think it's that many. But I think an opportunity like this doesn't come around that often, and given the fact that you're under the old rules of 95.5, if you can get the DLG on board, and get that, to where you're only paying 0.5%, it's, again, I have to go back and talk to my commission, and I'm sure the residents of Coal Run have input, and I'll certainly respect that, but it's a lot of benefit that comes to Coal Run because of this, in my opinion.
And Ms. Bennett, I think this project likely would last somewhere around 20 years.
Oh, if you were to implement all of the non-structural portion of the project, certainly.
And that's where we get to the $1 billion number.
Yeah, and that's another thing to mention to the court as far as what your priorities are. If we already mentioned that, even though you signed the project partnership agreement, federal government can't come in and sue you if you don't have the appropriations. We'll do it in a staged manner to where you know what's coming down the pike just as well as we do. But we could even focus on structural efforts first, if the flood walls were your highest priority, and then the non-structural efforts within the county later. You could start both efforts at the same time. So there's ways to spread it out over 20 years, or there's ways to, focus where you want to spend your money first, I guess.
Just a couple quick points. When you talk non-structural, that means raising properties or buying properties, correct?
Correct.
And there was some concern that we discussed when I met with Commissioner Shurtleff last week. The construction of the flood walls are done in such a way so as not to displace water on other homes or properties that may not be protected by the wall. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So downstream, you're not going to fix one problem or solve one problem and create another one.
Correct.
All right. I'm not sure, Commissioner, if you or Mr. Ellswick want to say a few words, or if you're in a position to at this point. I mean, we're not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I do think, excuse me, that this is a very, with the loss of the Inner Blue project, this may be one of the quickest ways to stimulate the economy here. And, I plan on calling Congressman Rogers to see, to speak with him about the project. And we're going to try to get some meetings set up with state officials. But it would seem to me if the county, Pikeville, and Coal Run at this point, maybe down the road when they start doing some of the tributary flood proofing, even Elkhorn City, could work together to come up. The $652,000 gets us moving forward, which leads me to the next question. Who decides, do we do Coal Run first or do we do Pikeville first? Or can we do them at the same time?
Well, that's really up to you and federal appropriations and state appropriations. So we would have a dedicated partnering meeting, whenever we get the project partnership aligned to determine what your priorities are. Right now, the Corps is probably prioritized, or the money that came in for this federal appropriation was labeled Coal Run, but we certainly have the ability to tackle both efforts.
Judge, one of the ways to look at it is we're the sponsor, and they are doing this in our name is one way to look at it. And going back to what the mayor was talking about a while ago, one of the reasons that the Coal Run didn't go all the way to Stone Coal was some of the people through there didn't want to sell their property, and it was that was an understanding I had 12 years ago, and they didn't want to sell something, and then it gets back to their criteria, the Corps', what they got to do. But when they build these, it's to limit displacing anybody. And one of the main things that they do is try to leave these communities, some people say, well, won't you just go in and buy everything out? It's cheaper. They want to leave their communities intact. That keeps their tax base, that keeps their communities that's been there for 80, 100 years. The Corps wants to, and we do too, is to leave these communities intact. So that's another decision that they take into factor when they decide which of these walls and which alignments to take and what to do. but that's something I wanted to bring to the court's attention.
And I think that's a very good point. Are there any questions, or Philip, do you or Commissioner Shurtleff have anything you'd like to add? I don't want to, again, put you on the spot, and
Well, I do have a couple questions. I probably missed it, but what was the estimated cost for North Pikeville project?
North Pikeville and Coal Run both are in the same ballpark, so you're looking at $115 to $125 million.
Then my second question is, if property owners in that neighborhood do not want to sell their homes or whatever the case may be, do you go to eminent domain? Do you modify the project? So you just go to, okay. Well, like to echo what you said, Judge, it is a good project. It certainly drives the economy. I've got some concerns, like the mayor does, Mayor Scott, about the eminent domain and property acquisition and how that'll be received by our residents. But we can cross those bridges when we come to them.
And it's one of those things to know as well as, if we get the green light and move forward with the design, one of the first things we're going to do is essentially, dust off the alignment and see what's changed. If there's something that we could do to tweak the alignment a little that would avoid buying out two houses that otherwise we would have had to, we'll certainly take that into consideration.
with regard to the North Pikeville, just so people understand, most of the residential homes would be in the lower Bowles addition, which, if my memory of the 77 flood is accurate, most of those homes had a substantial amount of water in them. A lot of those homes have flooded more than once. And then it would go all the way down. It would protect Pikeville High School and the state transportation garage. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do the project. Coal Run is the same way. You have a lot of government entities and a lot of homes. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yeah, I think over 100 businesses and 100 structures would be affected by this, which would essentially drastically decrease flood insurance. But, I would, again, how many structures was it, Jimmy, that would have to be, and for the Coal Run project? Because I don't think it was that many for Coal Run that would have to be taken.
I think it's something like maybe 15 for both walls.
For both walls?
Yeah, like 15 in Coal Run and possibly 15 in
And like
in North Pikeville. And it will be the ones out toward the back where the interceptor goes and the walls.
So you're talking about it would displace 15 homes?
Yes.
and
Well, may have been a few more, but
I
Right
think
around 15, give or take a little for each one. And like she said, they design them to do the least amount of impact. And now, once you get away from these walls, building the walls, all that is voluntary. I mean, you can say, yeah, I want you to raise my home, and they work everything up, and he comes out there to sign the papers, and you say, I've changed my mind, and it's open.
So if you want to stay in the floodplain and take the risk, it's on you.
It's all up to you.
And I think that, to the point of eminent domain and the structures that are taken, I would add, echo kind of what you had indicated earlier, that you believe that if there are people who are adamantly against it, that there could possibly be workarounds to save the projects. Is that correct?
Yeah, and this was years ago. They may change their mind now. They may.
Well, I know
they may be
this
all for it.
project started in the 80s, and I know there were lots of meetings that took place. I've seen the list of the attendees, and I've read the minutes of the meetings, and I think you guys took that into account. However, this has been, I think, when was the last meeting? In the 2000s? Something like that. So, I think you've taken a lot into account. I think it's something that definitely boosts the economy, not only for Coal Run and Pikeville, but for the entire county, and I think it's something that we all need to seriously look at.
And it's important to note that while, yes, we do take that into consideration, that doesn't dictate what we do as far as a flood risk management project.
Right.
So, although it would not be ideal, I think that there were some other engineering issues with taking in that additional area, which would have required an additional pump station and therefore raised the cost.
Right,
So,
but I guess the point I'm trying to get across is that neither Pikeville nor Coal Run would go into this not knowing which homes would be affected and which structures would be affected and whether it is so by the time you know, by the time it comes, yes, there may be a little bit of capital outlay to get the phase one of the engineering and you know, hydrological and all that other kind of analyses done that you've got to do. But once it comes time to really pay the piper, you're going to know what structures are going to be taken, what are not going to be taken, and make the necessary tweaks. So, you know, I think it's something that I need to listen to what my residents have to say and the city commission has to say, but I think it's something that in the end that they will probably likely certainly support.
Is there any concern about a delay potentially jeopardizing the project?
Well, we did receive the $4 million in what's called the FY19, fiscal year 19 work plan funds, and we received those in December. And to date, we've not expended very much money other than, you know, coming down here for meetings and that kind of thing. So in order for us to make asks of Congress, it behooves the project and the sponsor to show some kind of progress. So we would be better positioned to request additional engineering design money or even full funding to finish the design and construct the flood wall if we were able to show some design efforts have already been made.
So we had it on the agenda today to approve this agreement, but we don't have the $652,000. And I want to move rather quickly in engaging with the Department of Local Government, and I would encourage Coal Run and Pikeville to let us know within the next few weeks, next 4 weeks on this. Pikeville doesn't want to participate. They don't have to participate. Pikeville's got plenty of money. They've got a strong tax base. They don't want to do it, fine. If Coal Run's ready to move forward, we'll move forward with Coal Run. Whoever's first will move forward. Just as soon as we get the money, we'll move forward with it. We have litigation against a company that owes the county over $1.1 million. Mr. Keene and I are handling that. We're going to move rapidly on that. It's $1.1 million we could put into this project and start trying to put people to work. But again, if we move forward, we would need some type of memorandum of agreement between Coal Run and Pikeville to contribute to this project because of the economic impact. And just so you'll understand, this should not fall on the fiscal court in our financial position because, you know, Coal Run has a strong tax base. Pikeville has an exceptionally strong tax base. You know, the county is sitting on reserves about 1/5 of what the city of Pikeville is. And if Pikeville wants to proceed and participate, then we would expect Pikeville and or Coal Run to contribute to that because they would, the two cities would directly benefit from the occupational net profit tax when the county wouldn't. And so we would be looking to, for the $652,000 initially, the majority of that to come from your two cities because of what it would do directly for Coal Run and Pikeville. So if you'll get back with us on that, Bob, when you could talk to the mayor and the other commissioners, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's an issue where some people will be displaced, but when you look at the potential for job creation, economic impact in an area where we're continuing to lose population and lose working families, I want to just ask, we'll start with, go ahead, Bob.
I've heard this, I mean, I met with you last week, and this is, I understand the project and the large scope of the project. Do you have any other mapping or anything that we can see more detail other than what I've seen here so that we can
Jimmy's
see the
got some
impact
mapping.
of where it is? Because I'm looking at it from both a city point of view as well as Kentucky Power, because this is going to impact a lot of our infrastructure on the Kentucky Power side, so it'll serve two purposes for me.
Rebecca, do you have better maps than what we have here?
Yeah, we can get you an updated mapping. We would just be cautious because what we've done so far is just take the 2003 alignment and overlay it with an updated Google image.
That's fine.
So I would hate for that to get out to the public and someone be concerned that, oh my goodness, that's going right through my house, when that wouldn't be the case.
Trying to get a better scope of the project rather than looking at this.
All Commissioner Booth, we'll start with you. You have any comments?
I think this project really is a no-brainer. I think, excuse me, that I mean, for the 95.5, I mean, that's a great deal. And I know it will really help Coal Run and Pikeville tremendously. And it will help the county too, but I mean, I just, for 95.5%, I think it's be hard to pass up, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Robertson, this is your home district.
I agree with Commissioner Booth. It's a no-brainer. I mean, the money that it can bring into this county and the city of Coal Run, I mean, you don't come across this deal every day. So I think it's a go on my part.
If, say we come up with the money with the city and Coal Run, and we want to start out the whole project, all the money's there, if we've got all the money on our end, right?
On the federal side?
Yes.
No, we have to go and ask for federal appropriations on an annual budget
Okay.
cycle.
Okay.
So
I think they do that in July and August.
they've already started requesting for next year. So it's an iterative process, but
Okay.
I believe if everybody shows commitment, that if the city and Coal Run and the county steps in, I believe that with these entities showing an interest, that it'd be more apt for us to maybe secure some of that funding from some of these other places.
Well, again, Jimmy, thank you for your hard work over the years on this. I know you called me about 2 or 3 years ago when I was still in the state senate, and we had a long discussion about this. And I appreciate your hard work on it. We appreciate the Corps, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Bennett, and we'll wait to hear back from Coal Run, Pikeville, find out how they want to proceed with this, try to come to an agreement with them. In the meantime, if we'll go ahead and try to set something up between your office and the Department of Local Government to see if we can get some state support on this. Anyone have anything else? Thank you all very much, and we look forward to trying to make this come to reality.
Thank you, Judge, Deputy Judge, and Commissioners for having us.
We're going to stand in recess for a few minutes. I think we've been sitting here for a couple hours, and we probably need to take a short break. Maybe let's figure 5 to 10 minutes, and we will reconvene on the college chair. Court is in recess. All right, we're back in session, and the next item on the agenda is adoption of the resolution approving the execution of the the County Road Aid Cooperative Program Agreement between the Pike County Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and accepting all roads and streets referred to therein as being part of the county road system. This is the program that's been discussed at several of the meetings that we've had. This will be where we get a 60% allocation in the fall and then a 40% allocation in the spring, less the 3% emergency contribution to the emergency program. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution and approve execution of all documents related?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. And next week, we need to make sure Mr. Little is not here today, the road supervisor. He is in a class as part of the Road Scholar program and is continuing his education. So we need, Mr. Hickman, would you make sure that we get this, and Ms. Robinson, make sure that this is executed? I'll sign it, make sure that this goes back. Make sure that this goes back as soon as possible. It has to be in. I'm not sure if it's May 1st or June, but I want to go ahead and get that in. I'll let you look at this, Jeannie, to see if there's anywhere else we need to sign this. I'm not sure. The next matter on the agenda is the second reading of proposed ordinance adopting Raspberry Lane on Left Fork of Island Creek into the county road system. Mr. King, would you please present the second reading of this ordinance?
Judge, as you said, this is the second reading regarding Raspberry Lane, so a motion and vote will be in order to follow the reading. Notice of intended passage. Whereas it has been determined to be in the best interest of the public for the Pike County Fiscal Court to formally accept public roads into the official county road system, and whereas KRS 178.010 subsection 1B defines a county road as a public road which has been accepted by the fiscal court into the county road system. Whereas, where the fiscal court finds that the 30-foot minimum cannot be met due to the topography of the road or other extraordinary circumstances, the 30-foot width would not be appropriate. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the fiscal court of Pike County, Commonwealth of Kentucky, Section 1, that the following road, being public in nature, being is hereby formally and officially accepted into the Pike County road system and shall hereafter be part of said system. Road number, District 1, road name, Raspberry Lane, length 850 feet. Approved by the fiscal court this second day of April 2019, adopted by the fiscal court this 16th day of April 2019.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance relating to Raspberry Lane into the county road system?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? I just want to make one comment on this. This should have been in the county road system years ago. There's about 8 or 9 homes on this. The bridge is inherently unsafe, and as part of the 80-20 bridge program, we should be able to replace this bridge for less than $10,000, and it will, in my opinion, prevent someone from getting hurt. Right now, they can't even get a fire truck across this bridge to one of these homes, and I'm not sure why the prior administration or prior administrations didn't address this, but I do think this is the right choice. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Little has also given us a letter that says Pike County Fiscal Court has previously adopted roads into the county road system with no county road numbers attached. We've updated those roads with the following road numbers: Smiley Fork 2535, Meadow Lane 1716, Chestnut Drive 7226, Jones Fork 6554, Emma Road 1524, Smith Lane 8734, and Boulder East 1588, just for informational purposes. Next matter is, before I'm going to move around here since we've got, let's go ahead and discuss briefly, Mr. Ratliff, would you come up and just briefly, let's chat about the Elk Run Golf Course. And before you begin, I received some communication from Mr. Jim Patton, whose company has the management agreement. And he was wondering if, when we recover the FEMA money, if we would give him the money, let him do the work. And my recommendation, I'm not even sure that that would be proper to, without some type of contract that would specify where that money would be going. If we're going to do work on it, it needs to be done by county employees, where we can control the money. And it would be my recommendation to the court that we not allow the current contractor to have access to those funds. We're talking probably a year, Mr. Stacy, before we even see that money. Is that correct?
He's actually talking about money from last February's flood. The golf course got damaged last year on the 2018, and they actually wrote up a project on. Now, they had some ongoing damage this year that FEMA hasn't even approved yet, but he's asking for the funding from the February 2018 flood, which we just got approved for here probably about a month and a half ago.
How much is that, Frankie?
It's part of a project along with the park at the South Williamson flood wall, and then there's another overlook. It all got written into one project, and I think the golf course part was somewhere around close to about 35 to 40,000. If I'd have to go back and double check, but
Here's the communication. I spoke with Frankie. I assume that was you concerning the FEMA projects at Elk Run. He said the Public Works was going to do the work and the funds reside at the county and not the course. Says last time we actually got the money and did the work ourselves. I need to know if I'm going to be able to do the work or the county. If the course does not get the funds, then it will be impossible for me to receive the greens and get it open. Either way is fine. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is I don't know that it's even legally permissible. We're talking about federal monies.
yes, if for some reason we pass that money on to his company and he didn't do the work, we're still on the hook and we're still liable for that. So that would be, you know, when we receive the money, we're responsible to make sure that it gets done. So, you know,
You know, if we can receive any of that money, I think we ought to do it in-house ourselves too. I mean, I think they were talking about the extension agency there. They were talking about things that we could do for the course right now, as far as some seeding or something, not on the greens, but on the course itself. Is that what they were talking about earlier, Judge?
Vince,
it's specific to what they wrote up in the project that got damaged last year. I don't think the greens got damaged. I know there was a pump house,
That's what I'm saying, though.
a drain or something like that, that they wrote up, that we would have to specifically do that work that they wrote up.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, once you do the project, and it's a small project, if there's any funds, if we do it ourselves, we could potentially save money there on the labor and whatever, and then the extra money is basically, you know, we could do it to other parts of the course.
my question is if there's money left over, we can utilize it on that project, though, on some other aspect of it.
Yes.
So, I mean, we really don't even need to have a conversation as far as I'm concerned. I think the money, is everybody in agreement on that? I don't.
Jason?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we just do it in-house.
We really don't need to vote on that because the money's coming to us anyway. Mr. Ratliff, you have worked on this issue. You have sent soil samples to UK. You've been over there multiple times. And just so the folks out there will know, you do a lot of gardening and you've had training in horticulture and things like that. And just tell us a little bit about what your findings are and what your recommendations are.
Well, currently the state of the greens, which is, you know as well as I do, if you don't have greens, you don't have a golf course. You can pretty much have some patches of grass in the fairway, and you can roll the ball around, but if you don't have a green, you don't have a golf course. You don't have anything to putt on. Met with Suzanne Stumbo and Greg Munshaw. Greg is from, of course, Suzanne is one of our local extension agents. Greg is a doctor from the University of Kentucky. He specializes in turf grass, especially golf courses and greens. Met with him one day last week. We took our soil sample analysis and went over and looked at the greens and some of the findings that we had. The greens right now in the state they're in, the soil on them, other than being nutrient deficient and low on pH, and when I say low on pH,
They're acidic.
they're acidic, exactly. The pH needs to be somewhere around 6 or a little above. They're all in the 5s. One of them was kind of in the high 5s, but they're a little on the acidic side.
Let me ask you something. If the greens have been tested periodically, would it have revealed that before it got to this point?
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a green. You're talking about something that you're mowing almost daily to a, it's trying to maintain grass at a 1/4 inch height. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. Yeah, I would say looking at these things, every year, looking at the soil analysis to see what needs to be put back in them. Some of the findings were, of course, they're low on lime, which will raise the pH up.
That's easy to fix. Lime's cheap.
Lime's cheap. Fertilizer they need, right this second, they need spring emergence on them. Crabgrass needs to be killed. You can't plant grass with crabgrass on there. If you put if you put grass killer on them, grass killer kills all kinds of grass. So you've got to get the crabgrass stopped and hauled in there before it germinates. And that was one of the recommendations that he had. First thing we need to do is get a good spring emergent on them. Not worry about trying to plant grass this spring. He said, you're not going to do it. You know, the only thing that you could do right now would actually be put turf down on them, and, you know, that's horrendously expensive.
Well, what would it cost to put turf down? Tens of thousands?
If that cheap.
So
when you start sodding something, I mean, you sod a yard, it's expensive enough. You sod a green with grass this high. You know, somebody's been maintaining that grass for a while. They're gonna charge you for that maintenance.
So what is your recommendation? Is it that we put some lime on it, get some pre-emergence on it?
Get some pre-emergence on it now. The lime we can do that over the summer. Lime and fertilizer. Kind of get it mixed, let it mix into the soil. Around August, plant grass. He recommends creeping bent grass again. There was some other, they threw out some other types of grasses, zoysia and Bermuda. Inherently, there are problems with them that emerges in the winter. Neither one of those grasses generally on a green can survive below 25 degrees, which means those greens, if you see a forecast that's below 25 degrees, you have to go out and cover every green. You have to put a tarp on it. So
this is not a Bermuda climate. So if we do that, we can get some FEMA money to do some of the repairs. The Corps is going to work with us to try to hopefully they'll let us do some additional flood proofing. And since we're on the line for these ongoing lease payments for probably long after most of the people in this room are gone, so your recommendation is that we don't try, the course not reopen. Let me ask you this, is there any way to even reopen it this year?
no, there's no way, not unless you're willing to spend $100,000. And you know as well as I do, it's not there.
Okay. Mr. Ratliff, thank you for your hard work on this issue, and the members of the court have any questions?
Vince, I just want you to tell the people how that didn't cost us nothing, is having
No.
the doctor up here. That was
No,
just a service.
the University of Kentucky and the Extension Office did that out of the goodness of their hearts, trying to help us. You know, they understand it's a municipal golf course owned by the county. It's open to everyone. And right now, the course is not open because the greens are completely gone. Nobody can use it.
Right.
Vince, what's that stuff called we need to put on the greens right now?
Spring emergent.
How much is that stuff?
We've got, Suzanne Stumbo told me earlier that there's enough of that chemical over there to do the greens. Right now, they already have it. So I'm going to have with your permission, we'll get Mr. Ratliff to go have a conversation with Mr. Patton and see if he's going to spray him. And if not, then we need to get Public Works over there, because once they see with crabgrass, Mr. Ratliff and I have had a little bit of experience with this. Once they've seeded with crabgrass and they've germinated, it's a different problem.
Yeah.
You've almost pushed it back a whole year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we can get on it right now, then maybe have it ready next year or in the fall, whatever, you know, if we get any money.
Hopefully, we get grass seed on them this fall in August. Get a good start on that. by maybe spring, of course, we'll have to put pre-emergent on again, because crabgrass, you know, you track it from your yard onto the surface. You have to put that on every year. We should have pretty good stand of grass over there.
Okay.
Mr. Ratliff, again, thank you very much. You have anything else you'd like to add on this? And
No, other than the fact, you had discussed it, there is a turf grass seminar at University of Kentucky in July that I would like to attend.
we will have Mr. Stacy find out what the registration fee is. And again, just so the folks out there will understand, the work that UK did for us on this didn't cost us a penny.
Didn't cost us a penny.
And if we could get you the training, then it would save us money long-term to work on this. So if Mr. Stacy, if you'd put that on for the next meeting, then we will have it on there for approval at the next court meeting. Mr. Ratliff, I don't think that's a problem. I think it's money well spent. Members of the court have any other questions on that, comments?
Just thank you, Vince, and thank the doctor and Ms. Stumbo.
Vince, let me ask you something real quick. If Mr. Patton terminates the contract, or the county is in a position to where we would ask him to terminate the contract, would you be willing to take this project and see what you could do with it and try to help come up with a plan and to get it back open as cheaply as possible, working with the Corps to get the flood proofing done and so forth?
Sure.
All right. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. The next matter is awarding of bids. Mr. Fannin is not here. He's not here. He's on vacation this week. We had no bids to address anyway, so the next matter is the Pike County Road Supervisor's report. As I previously said, Mr. Little is in training. He's in class today, and I would ask Judge Hickman if he would read the summary of the work that has been performed and the work that is scheduled over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Judge. It is also my understanding that all of the commissioners' road work for the next 2 weeks has been turned in. Is that correct? Okay. Starting with Lot 1, Sycamore, well, the following areas had pothole patching since the plant is open now. Sycamore, Mill Fork of Sycamore, City of Coal Run, Jenny's Fork of Cowpen, Right Fork of Cowpen, Kermit Pugh Bottom Bridge, installed a new wooden deck. Work for the next 2 weeks from Lot 1, Lower Johns Creek is pothole patching, Big Branch, Lower Brushy's pothole patching, Lower Brushy pothole patch, Right Fork of Brushy pothole patch, Ford Mountain pothole patch, Mike's Branch pothole patching, Dry Branch pothole patching, Lowe's Branch pothole patching, Right Fork of Brushy and Ford Mountain will be mowed, and Rattlers Creek pull ditches and dip the creek. Lot 2, Dorton Hill was a FEMA repair. Dorton Creek, pothole patching, and Sugar Camp also pothole patching, as was Little Creek. Anderson Branch pulled ditches, open drains, and shoulder work. Darrell Burke Road pulled ditches. Deadening Fork and Little Creek removed trees. For the next 2 weeks, in Lot 2, Bear Fork will be grade and gravel. Beaver Fork of Long Fork removed trees. Island Creek mowing. Old Long Fork repair breaks and pothole patch. Left Fork of Long Fork pothole patching also. Rose Hill slide and gravel repair. Anderson Branch pothole patching. Sugar Camp pothole patching. Beaver Fork grade and gravel repair. Terrytown Road fixed drain and Dip Creek, and pothole patching on Rock House of Long Fork, Joe Nancy Bottom, and Long Fork. Lot 3, road work completed. Pothole patching on the following areas: right fork of Road Creek, South River Road, Ratliff Hill, Jesse Branch, Old Furls Creek Road, Blue Pond, Ellswick Branch, Honey Fork, Weddington Branch. Pulled ditches and open drains on Avery Murphy Road, Mayor Justice, Victor Atkins. Pulled ditches on Hayes Road. Pothole patch, pulled ditches and open drains on Motley Fork. Pothole patch on Flannery Branch and Little Card, and repaired the berm on Paul Fuller Road. For the next 2 weeks, pothole patch and pulled ditches on Jones Fork and Dix Fork, mowing on Kettle Camp. Ditches will be pulled on Laurel Fork, Miller Fork, Henry Branch, Henroos Fork, and pothole patch on Lower Camp. Lot 4, work completed. Ditches pulled on Sloan's Branch. And then the mouth of Bad Fork at Rock House was, I think, is a dump area, and they pushed the dirt and dressed that up. Pothole patching on Chloe, and 36-inch drain installed on Right Fork of Rock House. Red Creek had pothole patching, a 36-inch drain installed on Right Fork of Greasy, and then pothole patching on Dry Fork of Shelby, Red Creek, Right Fork of Red Creek, and Left Fork of Red Creek. For the next 2 weeks in Lot 4, Greasy Creek will have pothole patching. They will pull ditches on Rocky Road and Powell's Creek, and pull ditches and Dip Creek on Dry Fork of Ash Camp. Lot 5, work completed. Pothole patching on Hurricane and Stopover, Right Fork of Stopover. Ditches were pulled on Hurricane and Upper Johns Creek. Pothole patched and bridge repair, I guess, on Middle Elk Creek. And ditches pulled and dipped a creek in Upper Hurricane of Johns Creek. Slide repair on Right Fork of Cow Branch and Coon Branch. And then pothole patching on the following areas: Meat House, Johns Creek, Callahan Branch, Zion Lane, and Sunshine Lane. Ditches were pulled and open drains on Upper Hurricane of Johns Creek, and repaired the boat ramp area at the Hatfield-McCoy Park. For the next 2 weeks, work will be taking place on Lot 5 at Coal Bank Bottom, which will be pull in the creek and fix breaks, remove drain and Hatfield, replace 5 by 30 drain at Mayhorn Hill, remove tree and fix breaks on Pounding Mill Road, pothole patch Blackberry area, fix break in road in Upper Johnson Bottom, repair drain in Upper Blackberry. Lot 6, work completed. Drain water from playground on 319 at South Williamson Park, and then pothole patching at Benton Fork, Daggs Fork, Mays Lane, 3 Terrace Lane, Stratton Fork. South Williamson Park, drain water from playground on 327. Dip Creek, cut brush and fix breaks at Forest Hills, and then pothole patching at Pigeon Roost, Pipe Yard Hollow, Smith Bottom Loop, Dix Fork, shoulder repair at Pearl Pearl Street, gravelled parking lot and pulled ditches at Hardy Park, drained water from playground again at South Williamson Park on 4-8. Pinson Fork was fixed hole in the road. Turkey Creek Transfer Station, there was a slide repair. Then pothole patching at Benton Mountain Rock House and Rock House. South Williamson Park on 411 to drain water from playground. Middle Fork, Walters Fork, and Walnut Fork all had pothole patching. For the next 2 weeks in Lot 6, they have a brake repair at Pigeon Roost, install a 4x20 drain and gravel road at Pigeon Roost, replace deck on bridge at Hawthorne Burgraff Road on Pinson Fork, pull ditches, Dip Creek, and fix brakes at Pinson Fork, Dip Creek at Pico Hollow, pull ditches at Kirby Street, cut trees at Carl Shelton Road, replace bridge at Taylor Fork, and replace 5x9 rock in ditch where and as needed in Hillcrest. That's it, Judge.
Thank you, Judge. Is there a motion to approve the road work by Mr. Little in his absence?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett to approve the road supervisor's recommended road maintenance for the next 2 weeks. Is there a second? A second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy.
First item is to authorize the following interfund transfers for the March 2019 financial statement. To transfer $300,000 from the general fund to the jail fund, and transfer $125,000 from the road fund to the maintenance garage fund.
Mr. Stacy, the $300,000 that you propose to transfer to the jail fund, that will still be much less than what had been allocated. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where are we with regard to the maintenance garage budget?
If you look at the next item, is to authorize solid waste to transfer money to the maintenance garage. That $500,000 there should get the maintenance garage through the end of June.
How much has been transferred to the maintenance garage already?
Well, their entire budget is a transfer, so.
I understand, but how much so far in the fiscal year?
Probably about $750,000 from the road fund and nothing from solid waste so far. That's why I'm transferring the rest of the money from solid waste.
So this
because the road fund has paid their share.
Okay, that's all I was trying to get at. Is there a motion to authorize interfund transfers for March 2019, transferring $300,000 from the general fund to the jail fund, transferring $125,000 from the road fund to the maintenance garage? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize a check for the following interfund transfer would be to transfer $500,000 from the solid waste fund to the maintenance garage fund. And like I said, that should get the maintenance garage fund through June, the rest of the year.
Is there a motion? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson to transfer $500,000 from the solid waste fund to the maintenance garage. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Tack. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize payment of the expenditure approval list dated April 15th, 2019, and any other utility and telephone bills received before checks are run. And where it's early in the month, we'll probably run checks probably next Monday. to give us time to get all the utility bills in.
I know that some of the members had some questions. I know Commissioner Booth had brought something up about the sewage treatment issue. Judge Hickman, I think you had some things on the expenditure list that we had discussed.
Well, that was one of the main things. The other thing that was of note was that the Mountain Comprehensive Care is dramatically lower.
We have had a meeting with the district judges, Judge Wright and Judge May, and also representatives of Mountain Comp, and they are working to help us hold down the cost associated with referrals to Mountain Comp. Is there a motion to authorize payment of the expenditure list dated April 15, 2019, and any other utility and telephone bills received before checks are run? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Acknowledge receipt of the Treasurer's quarterly financial statement ending March 31st, 2019. And it's already been submitted to DLG on the 13th.
And I've had an opportunity. I signed it back on April 5th, and our balances are looking pretty good. We look like we're going to get through. Mr. Stacy, you would agree that we're going to get through? It looks like we'll get through the fiscal year and possibly have some savings at the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yes. One thing I do want to make a note on that the auditors had recommended that we start recording the post-closure CDs at BB&T Bank on our financial statement. So you'll see next to solid waste, you'll see a landfill CD line item. That's restricted money. It's not down there in our bank balance. It's under other investments. That's not previously been on our financial statements before. But one thing they're going to make a note of in the exit conference is that we needed to start reporting these CDs on our financials, which we've already done now. So.
And that's the restricted money to close the landfill?
It is restricted, yes.
And the LGEDF recapture, is it right at $800,000, correct?
Yes.
Of course, we have payroll coming up and the bills. What are we going to be looking like, Mr. Stacy, after payroll this week and the payment of the bills? Excuse me.
Payroll is going to be close to about $300,000. The bill list right now, after I add these other bills to it, are going to be somewhere around $975,000. Cash balance in the consolidated account, when I looked this morning, was $3.3 million. The cash balance in the solid waste fund was $2.2. Like I said, I'll still need to look at solid waste to see how much money that I've allocated to them that I can transfer back now to the consolidated account. But other than that, those are the bank balances through today.
All right. Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Treasurer's quarterly financial statement ending March 31st, 2019? We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? We've got 1 quarter left. Then we'll be receiving occupational net profits.
That'll be at the end of this month, yes.
Okay. Seeing no question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Acknowledge receipt of the sheriff and the clerk's 2550 report for March 2019.
Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the sheriff and clerk's 2550 reports for March 2019? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize an ACH payment to Deluxe Business Forms for $303.51 for deposit books for the consolidated account, and the like amount of $303.51 for deposit books for the solid waste account. We had to pay those directly out of our bank account and not write a check. That's why it's an ACH payment.
Is there a motion to authorize an ACH payment to Deluxe Business Forms for $303.51 for deposit books for the consolidated account and $303.51 for deposit books for the solid waste account? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Excuse me, I'm getting a little bit.
Authorize checks for lodging, registration, and expenses for anyone who wishes to attend the Kentucky Jailers Summer Conference, June 3rd to 6th, 2019 in Bowling Green. And as of right now, I think the registration is for the jailer and 3 deputies.
That's his command staff,
Yes.
I see. All right. Is there a motion to authorize checks for lodging, registration, expenses relating to the Kentucky Jailers Summer Conference, June 3rd to 6th, 2019 in Bowling Green? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robertson. Just need to be a little quicker there, Commissioner. If no question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize a check to Norman Preston Jr. in the amount of $2,784 for the following asbestos surveys. He did 2 surveys on a FEMA hazard mitigation grant 1925. Roger McCoy at 1889 State Highway 292 West, and Loretta Hunt at 6850 Zebulon Highway. And on a FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant 4057, an asbestos survey for Danny Chaney at 28 Rocky Court, and Timothy Atkins at 18 Rocky Court.
Is there a motion to authorize the check? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett to authorize a check to Norman Preston for $2,784 for the following, for asbestos surveys. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
And under additional treasurer's business, I have one item handed to me today. I would like to ask to add to the expenditure list a invoice for Kentucky State Treasurer for the environmental remediation fee for the solid waste landfill for the first quarter of 2019 in the amount of $23,087.05.
Is there a motion to authorize payment from the solid waste account to the Kentucky State Treasurer in the amount of $23,087.05? A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second. A second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Stacy, any other business to come before the court, sir?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. The next matter is executive session to discuss specific litigation and specific personnel matters. Mr. King, would you please recite the relevant provisions of Kentucky Revised Statutes?
Yes, as I understand it today, Judge, we need to enter executive session under KRS 61-810, subsection C, to discuss pending litigation with RCC Big Shoal, and subsection F to discuss the potential discipline of an individual employee.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. We are in recess for executive session, and we'll return on the call of the chair. Thank you. Court will come to order. Is there a motion to adjourn from executive session? You can tell it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second by Commissioner Robertson? We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Before we go any further, I want to really express my appreciation to our clerk because I hear that she's hearing my voice. She's, I think, a 49-page minute in the last court meeting. So we appreciate your hard work and the excellent job. Mr. Maynard, please present my recommendations regarding personnel and approval of salaries.
Yes, Judge. The following items are for approval. It is approval to move Sharon Hall from a 3A rate of pay to a 4A rate of pay. And it is approval for Diane Thacker to receive benefits. The approval for Diane Thacker to receive benefits of a full-time employee retrodated to January 1st of 2019.
For the members of the public, Ms. Hall is our grant writer, and she formerly worked at the Big Sandy Ad District. She's doing a tremendous job. We're actually seeing a lot of progress on the grants side. Prior court lost a very effective grant writer who's now employed at one of the local hospitals over refusing to pay her adequately, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we have talented people, that they're rewarded, and that we keep them. With regard to Ms. Thacker, Ms. Thacker, I want to extend an apology to you because that you were, in my opinion, done wrong by the prior court, and had you not been a dedicated employee, you could have very easily sued them for age discrimination. When Ms. Thacker was hired, she was hired basically with no benefits, no retirement, no vacation pay, no sick pay. Is that correct? That is unconscionable that someone will be treated that way. There's no provision in the county administrative code for that. I'm aware of no provision under Kentucky law that would allow an employee, particularly someone in a department supervisor position, to be treated that way. And it is my recommendation that she be granted all rights and benefits of a county employee, and that change be retroactive until January 7th, 2019, when this court came in to office. And again, I apologize, Diane, for, this is righting it wrong. No one should be forced to work a full-time job without benefits. It's probably a violation of federal law what they did to you. And again, please accept my apologies on behalf of this court for what was done by the prior administration. Those gentlemen are my recommendations, and my motion. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Excuse me. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. If I can get through the rest of the court meeting without coughing. The next matter not on the agenda is I want to take up the insurance procurement for workers' compensation and liability coverage. And this is a matter that's been dealt with by our insurance representative, Mr. Maynard, and Judge Hickman. We have received quotes on liability and workers' comp from the Kentucky Association of Counties, the current carrier, a company called Assured Partners, and then People's Insurance bid the workers' comp. I won't say bid the workers' comp because under the Model Procurement Code, liability and workers' compensation coverage does not have to be bid, but what we did is we asked for quotes from different companies. And when you get out into the private market, there's only a small number of companies that would even provide workers' comp, KEMI being one. CAECO provides their workers' comp coverage through the Kentucky Association of Counties All Alliance Fund. Mr. Maynard, would you please tell us your recommendation on which proposal to accept in terms of the workers' compensation liability coverage?
Yes, Judge. Just as you know, we have been working on this for probably the last 2 months, procuring numbers from these 3 companies. I have been in discussions with all 3 of these, and at this time, I would recommend Assured Partners receive the bid for $1,528,321.98. They are $5,437.57 cheaper once you factor in interest, the compounding interest that CAECO applies after October.
CAECO charges 0.5% interest compounding if we finance it.
Yeah, well, the way we've been paying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frankie, the way we have been paying is because of our cash flow, we paid January, February, March, right? That's been historically how we've paid CAECO.
Last year, we paid it in January in full, because we had the cash from property taxes to pay it. We had prepaid the workers' comp in June to get the 1% discount because we had cash flow at that time. I think the prior year before that, she had paid January, February, March, on both. So, like I said, it's kind of at your discretion. As long as you've got the premiums paid by June 30th of that year, you can pay anywhere along the year. The one thing about it is whatever balance you haven't got paid by October, there's a 0.5% compounded monthly for any balance carried forward through June of the next year.
Well,
if you have it all paid by October, there is no interest penalty. And like I said, once you start going past October, there's a 0.5% compounded monthly till whenever, from that point till June, that you do pay.
It's my understanding that Assured Partners, we can finance it monthly and not have to pay any interest. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that correct, Judge? So, I mean, rather than we don't know what the economy is going to do next year, we don't know where we're going to be, it would seem to me if we can spread these payments out over the course of the year, rather than having to take a big hit, paying it up front to avoid the finance charge, really it's like buying a vehicle and financing it with 0% interest. I mean, I don't think that we could get a better deal than that. Judge Hickman, you have worked on this quite a bit, and in your previous profession had quite a bit of experience purchasing large commercial workers' compensation and liability policies, actually for an entity that had more employees than the fiscal court does. What is your recommendation?
My recommendation is Assured Partners also.
It is my motion, based upon the recommendations of Mr. Maynard and Judge Hickman, that the Pike County Fiscal Court purchase workers' compensation, liability, earthquake, and cyber insurance from Assured Partners for the total sum of $1,528,321.98. Is there a second? That would be my motion, your second, Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. And pursuant to the provisions of the CAECO policy, we have to give them notice, 60 days notice that we're canceling with them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there a motion to allow the fiscal court to give notice to CAECO that we are terminating the liability and workers' compensation coverage effective July 1, 2019.
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. And Mr. Maynard, would you please get with Ms. Robinson today, draft the letter. Let's send it both regular mail, certified mail. I want to make sure that there's no question that CAECO receives the notice, okay?
I'll make sure that gets done.
All right, and I want to make sure I see proof of the return of service on that as well.
Understood.
Next matter before the court is the Pike County Department Supervisor's comments. Ms. Thacker, you have anything? Mr. Williamson? Larry? Mr. Ratliff? Preacher, you have anything?
Cleanup's going on.
We would encourage everyone to participate. If you want to know how you can participate, you can call the Solid Waste Office and speak to Mr. Sanders, and he'll be happy to help you with that. Next matter is the Pike County Assistant County Attorney's comments. Mr. King? All right, thank you, sir. Is there any public comment signed up? We have no public comment today. The next matter is the Deputy Judge Executive's comments. Mr. Hickman.
No comments today, Judge.
Thank you, sir. Pike County Commissioner's comments.
I just want to thank the Jimmy Dale and the Pride Group. What a job they do. I've got to meet with them 2 or 3 times, and I want to thank them. I want to thank the supervisors. I don't think we had a little bit of
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Robertson.
I just want to thank all our staff, all the people that work for this county. You all doing a tremendous job, and I sure appreciate it, and the people in this county need to appreciate it. They just don't know how hard you all work, and I want to thank you all for that.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, I want to thank Paul and them. They've done a really good job over at the Big Creek Fire Department. That roof really looks good. I think also we've been putting together maybe some playground equipment for Hardy Park. That park don't have much equipment at all, does it, Paul? We're trying to get some equipment together for it. And I want to thank them. Also thank our road crews are coming along really well on over in that area. So, and that's about all I have, Judge.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the Judge Executive's comments. I think it's been a long meeting. I thank everyone for their patience. I think the 202 project that we had discussed here today certainly has the potential to have a tremendous impact on this county. I hope that we can work with the city of Pikeville and Coal Run and Elkhorn to make it happen. We're going to need state assistance. We're going to continue to work on that. There will be a special call meeting before May 1st to pass the proposed budget. Mr. Stacy and I will be working to get the budget finalized. We will have a special call meeting, and there will be notice given probably the last week of the month would be my guess. I want to thank the road crew in District 4. We had trees down on Blake Owens Drive at Marbone this weekend, and they were on the spot, took care of it, and the folks in the area were very appreciative and expressed their comments to me as well. We've got a lot of work to do to move the county forward, and we appreciate everyone's patience. And if you have a question, if there's a suggestion or concern, someone earlier today posted a comment asking whether people who take garbage from West Virginia over to the Turkey Creek drop-off station, if they pay. Absolutely. If they're bringing garbage in, they're putting it in at Turkey Creek or at Phelps, they are required to pay. So it's not a freebie. We have to run our solid waste system responsibly. We're going to continue to try to make improvements. Over the next 2 months, there will be a lot of work on rerouting our solid waste system, trying to save money. It will, in my opinion, save money and improve maintenance when we go to a 4-day pickup week. Someone, with a Facebook commenter said, well, how is it going to save money? Well, it saves money because you have garbage trucks sitting a lot of time when they're finishing their routes in the middle of the day. By compressing the work week into 4 10-hour days, the routes will, by necessity, be more efficient. We'll have an idea of how many people it truly takes and how much equipment it truly takes to operate our solid waste system. We'll have Mondays for maintenance. So if it improves maintenance, I think that saves money. Commissioner Booth, right when we took office, made the statement, we have too many inefficiencies in our solid waste system. He was absolutely right. And we're going to try to refine that. So again, thank you all for being here today. If there are any citizens of Pike County that have questions or concerns, please feel free to call. It doesn't help us if you go on social media and make a comment. If there's a problem, a pothole, whatever it may be, give us a call so that we can get it on the list and have it addressed. If you put it on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, there's no guarantee that we're ever going to know about it. So again, we appreciate everyone for being here, and I'd like to ask Brother Jimmy Dale Sanders to say the benediction.
I'd like to make one comment. The bridge at Tom's Creek, Tom's Branch on Elkhorn Creek, is a wooden bridge, and we just want to use that for asset to our association ground. And we agree with the county. I went to talk with Mr. Fabian about it. If the county agreed to it, we'll pay half of it to have it cemented top of it. If that can be worked out with the county, we'll pay half of it, or maybe a little more than half. Now, sorry. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for all your blessings, and thank you for your Son Jesus you gave in our behalf. Lord, would you bless this court, bless all the people, bless all the county workers. May we all work in harmony for the same purpose. And may you bless all the people out in the county everywhere and all of our sick people. Just remember us all, Lord, and help us to be what you want us to be. And when you get through with us, let us go home with you. We pray you in Jesus' name, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion for adjournment? We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.